Alice's wicked grin foreshadows trouble as she spills a glass of wine. Sophia looks at her dress in horror, humiliated in front of everyone. A sister's caustic words hurt more than a ruined outfit. Alice's laughter rings in Sophia's ears, like a reminder of eternal betrayal. The heroine's gaze fills with cold rage. She will not allow herself to be deceived anymore. Sophia finally decides to fight back, accusing Alice of intentional cruelty. Alice masterfully feigns innocence while trying to make her sister look guilty. The girl coquettishly complains to Leo, pointing out the mess made by Sophia. The embarrassed heroine tries to escape, but Prince Leo stops her. The young man's unexpected gesture gives Sophia hope in a moment of despair. Leo's gaze is full of tenderness as he asks a confused Sophia to stay with him. Rage distorts Alice's face, because the prince dared to ignore her. The guests whisper behind her back, savoring the humiliation of the prince's self-proclaimed bride. Alice openly attacks her sister, claiming her rights to Leo. Sophia puts her sister in her place with a cold smile. No longer wanting to be a victim, the heroine vows to return to Alice all the pain, despair, and humiliation that she caused her. Memories take us back to the past, where Alice, with an angelic face, begs Sophia for a gift. Sophia plays along with her sister, with a slight smile, even then seeing right through her. The story reveals that Alice was the heroine's adopted daughter, her stepsister. No one could believe that behind the innocent appearance of the orphan lurked a cruel manipulator. Alice, with false curiosity, asks about the invitation she noticed on her sick sister. Memories of the past hurt Sophia, because her red eyes have always been the cause of hatred. In high society, the girl was always met with only contemptuous whispers and cold alienation. The heroine's awkward attempt to speak is met with a wall of icy silence. Envious glances and evil rumors turned Sophia into an outcast, branded as the devil's spawn. She desperately did not understand why her mere presence sowed only fear and discomfort around her. The years spent in voluntary confinement became her only salvation from the cruel world. Now, looking at the invitation, Sophia understands that she must overcome her fear for the sake of the future. Alice pretends to hug her sister, whispering consolation and dissuading her from going out. Behind the angelic smile lies the desire to keep Sophia in the shadows so that she can shine alone. Sophia thanks her sister for her imaginary concern, falling into her insidious trap. Alice suggests visiting her sick mother, knowing that it is a taboo and painful topic. The girl's heart sank with a bad feeling, but her sister's persuasions sounded too convincing. Memories of her mother, locked in her room for years, echo in Sophia's soul with deep pain. Alice's sly smile betrays her true intentions as the unsuspecting heroine leaves. The girl stands alone in the ominous corridor, not yet knowing that her sister has cruelly set her up. With timid hope, Sophia looks into the room, dreaming of a long-awaited meeting. The scene she saw made her blood run cold, destroying all her childhood illusions. Instead of a hug, her own mother greets her with a suffocating grip and a look full of hatred. Alice feigns shock as a mad woman attempts to kill her own daughter. Sophia desperately tries to stop her sister, not believing what is happening. Alice's devilish grin betrays her true motives, hidden beneath the guise of help. The father and his servants burst in at the noise, frozen in horror at the sight they saw. Alice masterfully plays out the tragedy, blaming her stepsister for everything. A false accusation of her mother's murder becomes a death sentence for Sophia. The heroine's desperate justifications are drowned out by Alice's tears and general disbelief. The sentence has been passed, and now the girl in prison awaits the dawn of her execution. Her silence and tears are taken as proof of the killer's cold-blooded nature. Sophia knows who the real criminal is, but no one will hear her truth. Alice's hypocritical smile is the last thing the heroine sees through the bars. Sophia's rage and despair beat against the bars of the grate, but her cries go unanswered. Alice mockingly revels in her sister's powerlessness because her words no longer mean anything. The realization of complete loneliness falls upon the heroine because even her family has turned away from her. Cold horror replaces anger as Sophia begins to understand the depth of Alice's betrayal. The girl boasts of her perfect reputation, which she used as a weapon. Alice reveals her evil plan, where she is the innocent victim and Sophia is the evil sister. The traitor's malicious laughter echoes throughout the dungeon, emphasizing the stupidity of the deceived people. The grief-stricken heroine cannot understand what caused such monstrous cruelty. Alice begins with relish to tell the story of her hatred, which began on the day of their first meeting. Black envy of Sophia's happy childhood became a poison that poisoned Alice's soul from the very beginning. Alice's goal has always been to steal, destroy, and ultimately kill, taking everything that belonged to her sister. Only her perceptive mother saw right through her, but the girl found a way to silence her forever. The crazy idea of slowly poisoning and tormenting her adoptive mother became an obsession for Alice. The perfect plan ended with all the crimes being pinned on the innocent Sophia. The terrible truth falls upon the heroine, because it was Alice who drove her mother crazy for years. The villainess revels in her victory, looking at her broken sister from behind bars. Saying goodbye to her silly sister, Alice leaves to enjoy her new life. Standing on the scaffold, Sophia cannot understand at what point her life turned into this nightmare. The wrath of the crowd falls upon the girl with stones and curses, branding her a murderer. In the last moments of her life, Sophia blames only herself, regretting that she was unable to guide her sister on the right path. The pitiful figure of the heroine on the scaffold evokes only contempt and glee in the crowd. Through the veil of pain and blood, Sophia sees her grief-stricken father in the crowd. The last cry for help escapes her lips when she notices a familiar face. The girl's pleas are shattered by the icy silence of her father, who does not dare to look at her. Alice takes her father away, depriving Sophia of her last hope for salvation and justice. Unable to bear his daughter's suffering, the father gives in to persuasion and leaves the square. Sophia's gaze goes blank as a creepy, insane grin appears on her lips. In the moment before her death, she comes to an epiphany. Alice is not a lost soul, but true evil. With her head meekly bowed to the chopping block, the girl accepts her fate with cold determination. The heroine's last thought is not forgiveness, but eternal damnation to the devil who destroyed her family. With her last breath, Sophia makes a deal with fate, giving her life for revenge. Consciousness fades and flares up again to the sounds of painfully familiar voices. The heroine wakes up in her childhood bed, not believing in the miracle that happened. She sees her parents alive and well, even though a moment ago she was mourning their loss. The sincere joy of her loved ones seems like a dream to her after the nightmare of betrayal she has experienced. The girl's mind cannot accept the reality that her mother is alive and was not executed. The reflection in the mirror confirms the incredible. She has become a little girl again. The appearance of young Alice with an innocent face makes Sophia's heart freeze with horror. Her sister's lie about falling from a tree becomes the trigger for her memories. Realization hits the heroine. She is given a second chance. She returned to the past. Alice's false concern no longer touches Sophia, who sees her as nothing more than a reminder of her past stupidity. A mad laugh bursts out of the heroine's chest, leaving the young villain in complete shock. Alice cannot understand the reason for such a reaction, because her mask of innocence has never failed. Knowing her sister's true nature, Sophia can hardly restrain herself from laughing in her face at such impudence. With an icy smile, the girl thanks her sister, vowing to never make the same mistakes again. Now that fate has given her a second chance, Sophia will become a predator herself and take everything from Alice. The sudden laughter frightens the parents, who are worried about the condition of their daughter, who has just woken up. The heroine cleverly calms everyone down, attributing her strange behavior to an interesting dream. The father looks at his daughter doubtfully, worrying whether she will be able to attend the upcoming banquet. The invitation to Prince Leo's anniversary becomes a sign for Sophia, as it was from this event that her path to destruction began. Thoughts about Prince Leo evoke mixed feelings in Sophia, because he was part of her tragedy. Cold and unapproachable, he always seemed like an unattainable peak for everyone. In a past life, an injury prevented her from attending a banquet, opening the way for her sister's intrigues. Alice is excitedly anticipating her meeting with the prince, seeing him as her ticket to royal life. A cunning plan is already brewing in Sophia's head to turn her sister's dreams into a living hell. The invitation, addressed only to Sophia, becomes the first stumbling block for Alice. The girl throws a tantrum, demanding from her father the opportunity to get to the desired appointment. With childish spontaneity, Alice declares her desire to become a princess, causing her mother to be touched. Her angelic appearance and feigned sweetness serve as the perfect weapon for manipulation. Sophia realizes that her sister's obsession with the prince was her main goal from the very beginning. In her past life, Alice almost achieved her goal, as the question of her marriage to the prince was almost decided. Sophia firmly declares her desire to go to the ball, taking the first step towards changing her destiny. Behind the innocent smile lies a cold calculation to get closer to the prince and ruin his sister's plans. The realization that Sophia is a more worthy candidate awakens a fierce hatred in Alice. A sweet smile hides a steely determination to take away from her sister her main goal, Prince Leo. The story takes us to the wealthy kingdom of Richislia, where the upcoming drama will unfold. Under the rule of a wise king, the state flourished under an absolute monarchy. The only hope and heir to the throne was the long-awaited son, Prince Leo Richislia. The heavy chains of duty and the best education shackled the childhood of the only heir. As a result of such an upbringing, a cold and insightful young man grew up, not susceptible to flattery. Pleas for mercy are shattered by the icy calm of young Prince Leo. At the age of 15, he mercilessly executed nobles, knowing no compassion. Loyal to his subjects, the future king hid a heart of ice under a mask of duty. In her past life, Sophia saw him only once, at a banquet in honor of his 16th birthday. The prince's frighteningly emotionless gaze left an indelible mark on her memory. Now, looking in the mirror, the girl prepares with anticipation for a new meeting. Prince Leo's 10th birthday has arrived, setting off a chain of fateful events. Young Sophia, the Duke's eldest daughter, appears before high society for the first time. Her appearance creates a sensation, eclipsing everyone present with her beauty. The admiring glances of the guests confirm that today she is the main star of the evening. Father proudly introduces Sophia, while Alice remains in the shadows, hiding her envy. By feigning dissatisfaction, the girl tries to draw attention to herself, reproaching her sister for selfishness. Alice bursts into the conversation with a charming smile, introducing herself as the little sister and stealing the moment. Her feigned spontaneity deceives guests, who mistake her impudence for childish energy. The general affection only feeds the ego of the villain, who masterfully plays the role of a charming child. Behind her sweet smile lies disdain, for in her thoughts she considers all gullible nobles fools. Sophia can hardly contain her disgust, because now it's as if she can read all of her sister's dark thoughts. The irritation grows, because the heroine understands that Alice has achieved her goal with another hysteria. Citing fatigue, the girl decides to leave the room to put her plan into action. Having calmed her worried mother, Sophia leaves with a conspiratorial smile, preparing to strike back. Under cover of night, Sophia scolds herself for a moment of weakness, because emotions are a luxury. She understands that any open hostility will only give Alice an excuse to play the victim again. Her goal is not just to survive, but to prevent her sister from getting close to the prince at any cost. In her past life, their meeting never took place, and this banquet is her only chance to change her fate. An unexpected acquaintance here, far from everyone, could become her main trump card in this game. The girl's intuition tells her that the hero of the occasion should be sought not in the noisy hall, but in the silence of the garden. Suddenly, quiet sobs reach her ears, disturbing the night's idyll. Among the roses, she finds a lonely, crying boy who looks nothing like the future cold-blooded tyrant. Sophia moves closer to comfort the stranger, but her gaze freezes on his chest. The royal coat of arms leaves no doubt. This vulnerable child is Prince Leo. Sophia is shocked, because this unfortunate boy is the future ruthless Prince Leo. The wary young man abruptly asks who she is, taking Sophia by surprise. The heroine mentally scolds herself for her carelessness, fearing the consequences of her actions. The prince's icy gaze leaves no doubt. He sees in her a spy who thirsts for death. Surprise replaces anger, because no one ever dared to speak to him, knowing his status. A sudden embarrassment causes the young man to stutter, destroying his image as a cold heir. This shy boy is nothing like the cold-blooded prince from her past. In her memories, he always looked down on everyone, with an inscrutable expression on his face. His cold eyes never expressed any feelings, instilling only fear in those around him. The prince's indignant cry breaks Sophia out of her thoughts, causing her to awkwardly apologize. The awareness of the prince's vulnerability gives Sophia confidence. She can easily cope with such a child. The girl introduces herself gracefully, reminding him of her high status and seizing the initiative. A sincere apology for her carelessness becomes her first step towards winning his trust. Trying to hide his embarrassment, the young man solemnly accepts her apology, regaining his royal dignity. After introducing himself, Leo immediately goes on the offensive, accusing her of seeing his tears. Sophia hastily denies the obvious, trying to preserve the fragile pride of the future king. The prince does not believe her words, because she witnessed his greatest humiliation. The heroine can only remain guiltily silent, understanding the full depth of his childish resentment. Leo bitterly assumes that she, like everyone else, will mock him behind his back. He admits that even his servants consider him a failure, unworthy of the title of prince. Sophia is shocked by the servant's insolence, and the prince snaps back, unwilling to accept her pity. Under the moonlight, Leo confesses his insecurities, which cause him to constantly cry alone. The weight of the crown weighs heavily on him, as any sign of weakness would cast a shadow over the entire royal family. For the first time, Sophia understands that behind the icy mask of the future king lies a lonely child under enormous pressure. To endure this, he had to freeze his heart, which gave rise to rumors about his cold-bloodedness. She recalls how she desperately wanted to be the perfect daughter and role model. However, her efforts only led to her being left alone, hated and slandered by everyone. In the end, all that awaited her was a painful death at the hands of those she loved. One single drop of faith could have changed everything, but in her world there was no such thing. Looking at the lonely prince, she finds her own pain reflected in his, and decides to become the one who will understand him. Sophia's words, full of sincere faith, become the first ray of hope for the prince. The unexpected support disarms the young man, who is accustomed only to ridicule and pressure. For the first time in a long time, a genuine smile lights up Leo's face, lifting an unbearable burden from his shoulders. The prince's unexpected tenderness makes Sophia question her motives, awakening long-forgotten feelings within her. However, memories of betrayal and execution sound like an alarm in her head, returning her to a cruel reality. Images of her broken father and a gloating Alice keep her focused on her main goal. The girl's heart again fills with cold, because the thirst for revenge turns out to be stronger than fleeting sympathy. Her only goal in this new life is to make Alice experience the same despair that she does. The prince's words of maternal wisdom break her out of her dark thoughts, bringing her back to the present moment. With a deceptively warm smile, Sophia offers him her friendship, taking the first step in her long game. The enchanted prince thanks Sophia, glad that it was she who found him in his moment of weakness. The girl suggests going back to the hall, but Leo doesn't want to let his new acquaintance go so quickly. With unexpected gallantry, the young man takes her arm, showing himself to be a true gentleman. This adult gesture takes Sophia by surprise, momentarily revealing to her the future king. Returning to the hall, the heroine notices with alarm that her treacherous sister has disappeared somewhere. Memory helpfully throws up pictures from the past, where Alice also set her sights on the prince. Sophia understands that she must at any cost prevent her sister from meeting this vulnerable boy. Noticing her anxiety, Leo shyly invites her to go somewhere together. Alice watches them from the shadows, her predatory gaze instantly drawn to the unfamiliar boy. A devilish grin spreads across her face, as her sister's new toy has already become her desired target. Panic grips Sophia, because now her main task is to protect the vulnerable prince from the predatory Alice. With a fake smile, the heroine thanks her sister for finding her, completely confusing the villain. Abruptly ending the conversation, the girl leaves the confused prince, launching her insidious plan. With a deceptively caring look, Sophia brings her sister to Leo, personally supervising their introduction. The prince's wary gaze meets Alice's wide-open eyes, and the game begins. The girl immediately turns on her charm, playing the role of a sweet and innocent lamb. Sophia watches the performance with cold calm, because she knew that her sister would not miss her chance. Alice begins her performance by chattering about how long she has dreamed of meeting His Highness. Making a fatal mistake, the girl tactlessly points to his tear-stained eyes, touching a nerve. With her false consolations, she tries to gain trust, not even suspecting that her game is already lost. Sophia is overcome with anxiety, because in such a vulnerable state, the prince could easily fall into Alice's trap. The heroine immediately intervenes, playing the role of the older sister and apologizing for the younger one's rudeness. Alice, confused, tries to correct the situation in her usual way. Coquetry. Anger distorts Leo's face, as he is not used to such impudence and familiarity. His icy wrath falls upon the girl who dared to touch His Highness without permission. The villain immediately plays the innocent victim, not understanding the reason for such a cruel reaction. The prince coldly reminds her that she has no right to even look at him without permission. Alice is seething with rage as her spell, which worked on everyone, fails for the first time. Sophia delivers a crushing blow by offering a sincere apology for her sister's unworthy behavior. At that moment, Leo's cold gaze is exactly like that of the prince from her past life, and Sophia understands that the monster is already here. The prince leaves with an inscrutable face, leaving behind a humiliated Alice and a satisfied Sophia. The heroine breathes a sigh of relief, because her first move in this game saved the prince from the poisonous fangs of her sister. Rage contorts Alice's face as she lashes out at Sophia. Unable to understand why she was interrupted at her most crucial moment, Sophia takes the blow with a cold smile, because this small revenge is only the beginning of her grand plan. The unsuspecting parents rejoice at a successful evening, oblivious to the storm brewing between their daughters. The mother praises both girls for their social debut, glad that everything went smoothly. Sophia plays along, feigning excitement before such a worthy highness, hiding her true feelings. The mother's sly smile reveals her insight. She sees everything, but for now she prefers to remain silent. Sophia's thoughts return to Leo again, because now she is worried not about Alice, but about his own condition. She notices how the boy has put his ice mask back on, avoiding any eye contact with her. The contrast between the sweet boy in the garden and the cold prince in the hall confuses Sophia. Could it be that that touching meeting was just a dream, and before her was the future tyrant again? The heroine recalls the moment when their private conversation was interrupted by Alice's appearance. The young man's embarrassed offer to go with him somewhere remained unanswered, hanging in the air. On the way home, the girl wonders what he wanted to tell her, impatiently awaiting a new meeting. The next day, life goes on as usual in the Duke's luxurious mansion. Sophia recalls yesterday evening with a satisfied smile, because her first contact with the prince was successful. Now she needs a new plan to get closer to Leo and strengthen her position. A sudden call breaks her from her thoughts, foreshadowing a new event. A sly smile touches the heroine's lips. It seems the next opportunity is just coming her way. Teacher Louise's stern gaze meets Sophia, foreshadowing another moralizing lesson. A woman's irritation reveals her bias, because she is looking for any reason to reproach. With an angelic smile, the heroine apologizes, disarming her mentor with her impeccable politeness. The teacher's caustic remark, holding Alice up as an example, only serves to inflame Sophia's cold determination. Louise's hypocrisy only makes the girl smile, as she blindly indulges her favorite's rudeness. In an authoritative tone, Sophia reminds the teacher that classes are about to begin, subtly indicating her place. Behind the mentor's arrogant attitude lies her real name, Louise Virgo, a pawn in someone else's game. The heroine recalls that it was this woman who became Alice's first ally, blindly creating the ideal lady out of her. A devilish smile lights up Sophia's face, because in this life, she will ensure the quick dismissal of the hypocritical teacher. The very first lesson becomes a battlefield where Sophia is ready to demonstrate her superiority. The teacher, with a sly grin, expects Sophia to fail, confident in her incompetence. Sophia recalls this impossible task, which in her past life became a real test for her. Envy and hatred for Sophia's status make Louise revel in her cruelty, deliberately humiliating the girl. The story reveals that the teacher is a descendant of an ancient and respected family of counts. From a young age, she considered herself a genius, born for great achievements, and not for teaching stupid aristocrats. However, her mother's extravagance and the family's debts destroyed her brilliant future, forcing her to marry for convenience. Her own father sold her, trading his brilliant daughter for financial stability and ruining her life. This resentment turned her into a wasteful and arrogant woman who disdained her duties. She takes out her anger on her subordinates, reveling in the power she was deprived of in her own family. Any reminder of her fall sends her into fits of rage, revealing the true nature of the unfortunate woman. The manager meekly withdraws, leaving the lady alone with her rage. Her husband, a rude soldier, evokes only contempt and disgust in Louise. The only good thing about this marriage was that her commoner husband never interfered in her affairs. It was this useless idiot who forced her, a brilliant aristocrat, to become a tutor. Fate brought her to the Duke's house, forcing her to teach two daughters, one of whom would become her undoing. On the first day of their acquaintance, Sophia's angelic smile was perceived as a challenge. The teacher's innate pride did not allow her to accept the student's politeness, seeing in it only mockery. Behind the polite introduction hid a seething hatred for the new job and envy of the Duke's glittering world. After 2 weeks of humiliation, Louise finishes the lesson, but a child's voice behind her makes her freeze. Alice's innocent appearance is deceptive, and her appearance foreshadows the beginning of a new manipulation. Alice begins her game with an angelic smile, asking the teacher for a moment of attention. In a conspiratorial whisper, She begins to weave a web of lies, knowing that the teacher will listen to her. Venomous words fly from her lips as she slanders her sister, accusing her of disrespect. Alice masterfully plays the innocent bystander, confirming her lie and leaving Louise in shock. The fear of being fired grips the teacher's heart like an icy grip, making her vulnerable to further manipulation. Changing tactics, the girl immediately begins to praise the lessons, contrasting herself with her ungrateful sister. A stream of flattery and admiration falls upon Louise, lulling her vigilance and winning her favor. The deceived teacher praises Alice for her honesty, not even suspecting that she has become a puppet in her hands. With an innocent look, Alice offers to give Sophia more difficult tasks, hiding her desire to humiliate under a mask of admiration. The final blow has been dealt. A subtle hint of Sophia's superiority hurts the teacher's pride and decides the heroine's fate. Alice's words hit home, and now the teacher's wounded pride is eager to teach Sophia a lesson. Blinded by anger, Louise decides to make the arrogant girl regret her insolence. The lesson begins with a show of affection for Alice, who is given the simplest tasks. The teacher greets any mistake made by her favorite with an encouraging smile, emphasizing the difference in attitude. At the end of the lesson, Sophia timidly tries to ask a question, knowing what a storm it will cause. The irritation on Louise's face turns to contempt at the mere sight of the hated student. Feigning incomprehension, the heroine admits that complex classical literature is beyond her capabilities. Predictable rage falls upon the girl, because the teacher was just waiting for a reason to humiliate her. Louise screams, shaming Sophia and reveling in her apparent stupidity in front of Alice. Holding back tears, the heroine meekly apologizes, allowing the humiliation to become the next step in her plan. Louise's satisfied grin betrays her sadistic pleasure, as Sophia never complained about her bullying. The more she tormented the girl, the more she withdrew into herself, giving the teacher perverted pleasure. A sly smile touches Louise's lips, because today she will be able to enjoy her small victory again. With a sparkle in her eyes, Sophia begins to answer the most difficult task, amazing the teacher with the depth of her knowledge. The perfect answer from a smart and confident girl completely destroys the image of a stupid, empty shell. Sophia doesn't just answer, but offers her own perspective on the problem, leaving the teacher stumped. With a sly smile, the girl asks Louise for her opinion, knowing full well that she won't be able to answer her. Under the pretext of an interesting task, Sophia announces that she has invited a special guest for the discussion. A smiling Viscount Virgo enters the room, and his appearance comes as a complete surprise to his wife. Horror distorts Louise's face as the man she despised most witnessed her humiliation. Panic grips Louise, because the appearance of her husband is the last thing she expected. The Viscount explains with a smile that Lady Sophia herself invited him, wanting to surprise her wife. Sophia's mother plays along, apologizing for the surprise and completely cutting off the teacher's escape route. With a charming smile, the heroine asks the Viscount to evaluate her essay, delivering the decisive blow. Louise's desperate attempt to stop her husband fails, because he has already picked up the piece of paper. With a warm smile, the man begins to read, not yet suspecting that he is holding in his hands proof of his wife's professional incompetence. His face darkens as he turns to his wife with an icy question, demanding an explanation. Even an uneducated soldier understands that such a task is beyond the capabilities of an ordinary 8-year-old child. Anger distorts the Viscount's face when he realizes what his wife was really thinking. In a last desperate attempt to save herself, Louise tries to place all the blame on the willful Sophia. The Duchess asks Sophia, but Louise immediately interrupts, continuing her lying tirade. She accuses the girl of arrogance and haughtiness, trying to portray herself as a victim. In her crazy speeches, she convinces herself that she was only correcting the behavior of an unbearable child. Sophia watches the hysteria with cold calm, knowing that the teacher is digging her own grave. Enraged by the lie, the Viscount rudely interrupts his wife, not allowing her to disgrace herself any further. He accuses her not only of impossible tasks, but also of blatant lies right to his face. Despair and rage are mixed in the cry of Louise, who cannot believe her own husband's betrayal. The man coldly reminds her that their marriage was just a deal to revive her family. His patience has run out, and now he demands that she prove her right to be called his wife. From that day on, Louise is deprived of all privileges and becomes an ordinary housewife under the strict supervision of her husband. Louise clings to her title in desperation, not realizing that it has long since lost its power. The Viscount mercilessly reminds her that she is the daughter of a ruined family, saved only by his marriage. Her hysterical cry about her own genius sounds like a last attempt to hold together a crumbling world. With icy calm, the husband asks if she still hasn't realized her true situation. He promises to knock the arrogance out of her if she thinks she's too smart for her current status. Alice watches the scene in bewilderment, not understanding why her perfect puppet has gotten out of control. Father sympathizes with Sophia, believing that today has become a real disaster for her. The heroine apologizes with feigned sadness, taking the blame for inviting the Viscount. Sophia knew about Louise's contempt for her husband and used it as her main weapon. A devilish smile touches the girl's lips, because the humiliation of the arrogant teacher gives her true pleasure. Sophia understands that in the past, Louise was just a puppet in the hands of the insidious Alice. The realization that the main enemy is still nearby makes the girl be on guard. A father's tender caress gives the heroine a rare moment of warmth and support. Words of pride from her father become the best reward for Sophia's intelligence and courage. The girl breathes a sigh of relief, as the first pawn in her game has been successfully knocked off the board. The father raises the issue of a new teacher in a puzzled manner, not knowing that his daughter already has a plan. Sophia prepares to make her request, making the next move in her well-thought-out strategy. A sudden noise interrupts their conversation as an agitated butler bursts into the room. An urgent letter from the royal family comes as a complete surprise to everyone present. The news that the message is from Prince Leo himself makes Sophia's heart skip a beat in anticipation. A week later, the day of the long-awaited meeting arrives in a magnificent palace. The invitation to a private tea party with the prince came as a pleasant surprise to Sophia. It seems her plan to gain trust worked even better than she expected. A malicious smile appears on the girl's face as she remembers Alice's sour expression. The maid announces Lady Sophia's arrival, and the moment of truth finally arrives. Now, her main goal is to finally charm the prince and secure his support. With an impeccable smile and manners, the heroine greets His Highness, playing the role of an ideal lady. The prince greets her with an inscrutable expression, but his attentive gaze speaks volumes. Sophia notices that from the moment she appeared, he has not taken his eyes off her, trying to read her thoughts. The girl drains her cup of tea in her excitement, awkwardly ruining her perfect image and causing herself annoyance. An awkward silence is broken by the prince's question, and Sophia sheepishly confirms that her tea is finished. With unexpected gallantry, the young man himself takes hold of the teapot to fill her cup. This graceful and completely unroyal gesture takes the girl by surprise. She understands that he sent away all the servants on purpose so that he could be alone with her. His expression is unreadable, leaving Sophia at a loss for words. Having gathered her courage, the heroine decides to take the initiative into her own hands and ask him directly about his intentions. To her surprise, Leo admits that he was looking forward to this meeting more than she was. He recalls that very incident in the garden that marked the beginning of their strange acquaintance. With despair in his voice, the prince demands that she tell no one about his momentary weakness. Finally, Sophia understands the true reason for this tea party. He called her to make her promise to keep his secret. Sophia, with a slight smile, agrees to forget the incident, if that is His Highness's wish. Her feigned indifference infuriates the prince, because he did not want to erase this from his memory. With embarrassment in his voice, the young man asks her not to forget about their acquaintance, because it is important to him. With a warm smile, the heroine assures that this evening has become a dear memory for her. Satisfied with the answer, Leo smiles shyly, declaring what happened their little secret. Sophia cleverly changes the subject, asking about his life in the castle and his relationship with his father. The inspired young man enthusiastically tells how the king listens to his stories about various things. Seeing his genuine joy, the girl understands how much he values these rare moments with his father. With slight envy, she admits that, as a woman, she is not allowed to study her father's work. The prince's unexpected question about her interest in governing the territory takes Sophia by surprise. Sophia enthusiastically declares that her knowledge may one day be useful to the kingdom. The prince is surprised, because noble ladies are usually only interested in clothes and gossip. His remark about her oddity sounds more like a compliment, setting her apart from the crowd. Leo admits that he is tired of the hypocritical environment, and Sophia seems like a breath of fresh air to him. In his lonely smile, the girl sees a longing for simple human communication. The inspired prince offers to personally become her teacher and tell her about the affairs of the kingdom. He begins with bad news about crop failure and an influx of refugees, which are making the situation worse. Sophia understands that the situation in the country is much worse than it seems, and this is only the beginning of the crisis. She recalls how in the past, Alice used these disasters to manipulate and strengthen her power. The girl realizes that this situation will create problems for her father, who enjoys the king's great trust. Sophia remembers how in her past life, her father was less and less at home, absorbed in the affairs of the kingdom. The absence of a father allowed Alice's influence to grow unchecked, poisoning everything around her. Her own mother became a victim of these intrigues, slowly dying from an arranged illness. A desperate hope flickers in the girl's heart. If her father stays close, perhaps she can save her mother. The realization of her own powerlessness in the face of the impending tragedy falls like a heavy burden on her shoulders. Trying to hide her anxiety from the prince, Sophia does not notice how he is very close. The young man's gentle gesture and his intense gaze take the girl by surprise, making her heart beat faster. The quiet command to open his mouth sounds unexpected and intimate, breaking down all barriers between them. The sweet taste of chocolate mixes with excitement, creating a moment of unexpected intimacy. His embarrassed concern and awkward apologies completely disarm Sophia, causing her to blush. The prince admits that around her he starts talking nonsense, losing his royal composure. With a sly smile, he admits that he hopes for her understanding, seeing her as the only person who will listen to him. Her tender gesture and sincere words become for him the invitation he has been waiting for so long. This moment marks the beginning of their special bond, cemented by a shared secret and timid sympathy. Time flew by unnoticed, and now it's time for them to say goodbye, although neither of them wants it at all. A happy smile never leaves the young man's face as he offers to walk her home, wanting to prolong their meeting. On the way, the girl decides to ask about something that has been bothering her since the day of the ball. She reminds him of the interrupted conversation, causing the prince to be confused again by her insight. The embarrassed prince promises to reveal his secret the next time they meet, creating a sweet intrigue. A satisfied smile touches Sophia's lips, because today's meeting went perfectly, and she is once again one step ahead of Alice. Unexpected tenderness takes the girl by surprise. The young man promises to dispel her sadness and give her joy. Alice melts at his words, feeling their connection grow stronger. A fragile hope for a common future is born in their hearts. A dark, threatening figure appears behind them. The servant's cunning question makes the young man freeze in confusion. The servant hints with a grin that he knows all their secrets. He tries to sow seeds of doubt about the heroine in the guy's soul. The hero is disappointed with his superficial answer, expecting more. The manipulator enjoys the effect produced, anticipating his game. The young man desperately tries to protect her reputation from other people's intrigues. The servant sarcastically remarks on the budding feelings, leaving the hero at a loss. The cold reminder of duty sounds like a threat to his personal happiness. The guy accepts his fate with dignity, but does not give up on his feelings. Left alone, he feels the weight of his situation and the treachery of the servant. Thoughts of Sophia bring him comfort. He remembers her curious look. There is something unusual about her that makes her stand out from all the others. Behind her charming smile lies a wisdom beyond her years. Her sincere desire to get to know him better melted the ice in his heart. These words pierced his armor, causing him to lose his vigilance. He hopes with all his heart that her words were not just an act. An important reception breaks the morning silence, foreshadowing fateful meetings. Behind the pleasantries and congratulations lie business interests and cold calculations. The celebration in honor of the new title becomes an arena for future alliances. The heroine eagerly awaits a meeting with the one who could become the key to her plans. Enter the powerful Baroness Citron, whose reputation precedes her. It is her sharp mind and business acumen that are behind the family's prosperity. Her daughter Maya is Alice's future rival, and this clash is inevitable. The girls are left alone, and an awkward tension hangs in the air. Sophia makes the first move, extending a hand of friendship to her potential rival. An intrusive blonde unceremoniously interrupts the conversation, disrupting all plans. Alice's feigned tenderness clearly weighs on Maya, putting her in an awkward position. The ideal scenario of their first, such an important meeting, collapses in the heroine's head. Behind the mask of a best friend lies a sinister threat and total control. Alice demonstratively stands between the girls, breaking the contact that had just begun. This false game only causes Sophia to feel a dull irritation. Empty chatter about sweets becomes a way to draw all the attention to oneself. Maya's quiet response reveals her soft nature. Hidden behind her outward coldness, the senselessness of what is happening drives Sophia crazy, destroying her composure. The heroine understands that Maya is an alien element in this snake pit. Behind Alice's ostentatious luxury lies the cold calculation of a merchant's daughter. But Maya seems different, sincere. Unlike all the flatterers around her, this is why Sophia so desperately needs her as an ally. The pushy blonde tries to gain trust, ruining the moment. She falls silent, embarrassed, realizing that her chatter has become too intrusive. The heroine mentally begs her to remain silent forever, barely containing her rage. But outwardly, she maintains a mask of friendliness, hiding her true feelings. The past is coming back, and now the former shadow wants to take its place. Maya uses business as an excuse to strengthen their fragile bond. This generous gesture wins them admiration and new supporters. Maya's tempting offer is met with doubts about someone else's solvency. Alice whispers the secret of affordability, turning luxury into a lure. The girl's gaze turns to Sophia, as if seeking approval in her quiet world. An innocent question about decoration becomes a test of taste and social status. Sophia's restrained compliment is perceived as a sign of affection, giving hope. But her words are immediately distorted, turning into poisonous gossip behind her back. She feels miserable and misunderstood again, her good intentions trampled upon. Alice seizes the initiative, offering everyone a cheap trinket as the new trend. Everyone's attention instantly switches to her, confirming her power. Sophia bitterly realizes that she will never compare to this shining star. The sisters' thoughtful offer sounds like a subtle hint to leave. Alice subtly hints that the heroine's presence creates nothing but problems. Sophia accepts her false concern with icy calm, not giving in to provocation. As she leaves, the girl leaves her sister confused by her unexpected resilience. Memories of the past only strengthen her determination to change everything. An unexpected gift from Maya becomes a new move in this complex game. A fragile sugar flower becomes a symbol of timid hope for friendship. This simple gesture from Maya promises to melt the ice between them. The flower's magical transformation takes the heroine by surprise with its beauty. But the beautiful gift turns out to be a trap, carrying a hidden threat. Horror and disgust distort Sophia's face at the sight of the vile setup. Her shock turns to icy rage as she realizes the baseness of this prank. Maya is horrified to feel that she has become an unwitting participant in a cruel intrigue. Panic grips her when she sees what her innocent gift has become. Maya's desperate attempt to fix everything is rudely cut short by someone else's powerful hand. Alice's ominous whisper sounds like an ultimatum, a reminder of the promise made. Her eyes were frozen in horror at the realization that she had become a puppet in Alice's hands. Behind the Citron family's success stood a calculating father and the shadowy support of a mother. From childhood, Maya was prepared for a world where every step is a strategic move. Her father pushes her into a dangerous alliance, seeking to buy influence at the cost of her freedom. Maya meekly accepts her difficult fate, hiding deep pain behind humility. A sense of duty to her family ignites in her, the determination to go all the way. A fateful meeting happens sooner than she could have expected, changing everything. The sudden appearance of a spoiled guest disrupts the usual order of things. The visit of the noble Orvan family becomes both an honor and a test for them. With childish spontaneity, Alice demands attention, invading her personal space. Behind her beaming smile lies a cunning plan to get closer. Alice is delightedly choosing jewelry, oblivious to the thoughts behind Maya's polite smile. While her fathers are busy with their affairs, Maya sees a chance to mend her own fragile alliance. Her excessive liveliness seems strange to Maya, for a lady of her circle. Alice's childish question about her resemblance to the princess hides her true ambitions. A naive dream of marrying a prince becomes an obsession for a young lady. Maya is stunned by how straightforward and grandiose this girl's plans are. A shadow of doubt falls on her face when she introduces her main rival, her sister, into the game. The news of Sophia's invitation to the palace sounds both like boasting and a complaint. Alice's feigned self-deprecation is merely a ploy to draw words of comfort from Maya. Behind this enthusiastic declaration of love lies a thirst for power, not feelings. Maya mistakenly sees her as just a spoiled but harmless aristocrat. Her father's words give her hope that talent can be the key to the royal court. She gives Alice false hope, pursuing only her own selfish goals. Fear distorts her face at the thought that the ominous premonition will turn out to be true. Alice's obsessive generosity takes Maya by surprise, leaving her unable to object. She tries to return the expensive gift, feeling uncomfortable in this game. A generous gift becomes a bond, forcing a friendship that cannot be refused. The girl finds herself trapped, unable to reject a gift whose acceptance is tantamount to a deal. With a heavy heart, she accepts the rules of the game, becoming a pawn in someone else's hands. As she leaves, Alice gives her a chilling look, full of unspoken threat. Memory takes her back to that terrible moment when that word became a weapon against her. Sophia looks at the cup with unwavering determination, refusing to become a victim. Alice's devious smile in the past proves that this was all part of her cruel plan. Fear for her family paralyzes her, because any interference will ruin their reputation. Sophia watches her sister's rotten soul with pleasure, anticipating her fall. The sudden turn of events leaves both girls in a state of complete shock. The retribution falls on the wrong person, instead of the one it was aimed at, falling upon the schemer herself. In a rage, Alice looks for someone to blame, unwilling to admit her own failure. The heroine skillfully plays the role of an innocent victim, hiding her glee. She easily rewrites history, making everything look like an absurd accident. Humiliated and misunderstood, Alice runs away, vowing to avenge her insult. Sophia whispers to Maya about the unique opportunity born out of this chaos. The appearance of adults takes the conflict to a new level, threatening exposure. Behind the apparent calm of the heroine and Maya lies a perfectly staged performance. The father demands an explanation, completely trusting the false complaint of his youngest daughter. In a blind rage, Alice attacks her sister, not realizing how she lost. Sophia masterfully portrays pain and remorse, making her sister feel guilty. She begins her story by turning the truth into a clever lie about an accident. A ridiculous accident with a beetle becomes the perfect cover for her revenge. By feigning gratitude for forgiveness, she completely misleads her sister. Alice begins to believe in her sister's kindness, not noticing how she pulls the strings. Sophia's inner voice revels in its victory over its naive and cruel sister. The father is relieved to believe in their reconciliation, not seeing the devilish gleam in the eyes of his eldest daughter. Alice desperately tries to prove her case by accusing her sister of lying. Her cries of conspiracy sound like the ravings of a madwoman, depriving her of all credibility. Sophia, with feigned sympathy, portrays her sister as distraught with grief. In an attempt to find proof, Alice frightens Maya with her obsession. She presents the evidence triumphantly, confident of her inevitable victory. But the evidence is gone, and her triumph turns to mad despair. The heroine mentally returns all her accusations to her sister, enjoying revenge. Alice's hysteria reaches its peak, shocking and alienating everyone present. Her father tries to calm her down, but she has already lost control of reality. Sophia approaches with false sympathy, delivering the final crushing blow. Her sister's cold whisper finally breaks Alice, making her actions seem stupid and childish. The father easily believes in the innocence of his eldest daughter, blaming everything on a misunderstanding. The Duke is forced to humbly apologize for the scene his daughter created. Broken and humiliated, Alice is led away, left alone with her shame. She is left completely alone when even those closest to her refuse to believe her. In her room, Sophia revels in her brilliant victory, celebrating her triumph. The main goal was achieved. She was able to free Maya from her sister's influence. The memory of Alice's feigned horror sends her into a fit of childish glee. But joy gives way to anxiety, because she understands how risky this game was. Fear only strengthens her resolve, because now there is simply no turning back. The fear in Maya's eyes awakens memories of her own pain and humiliation. The morning silence is broken by an unexpected visit, finding her completely unprepared. The news of a parcel from the royal family comes as a bolt from the blue. Her heart stops in shock, because such a sign of attention can change everything. What ends up in her hands is not just a letter, but the key to a new stage of her game. She greets the new day with an image of innocence that hides a steely determination. She casually drops news of a gift from the prince, starting a wave of rumors. The admiration of the maids becomes the first fruit of her cunning plan. She turns her visit to Maya into another step towards winning the prince. Behind her feigned embarrassment lies pure pleasure from the attention. She didn't lie, but simply skillfully embellished the truth, turning a quiet gift into a loud event. The maids, who love rumors, become her unwitting allies in spreading lies. Poisonous gossip reaches Alice's ears, awakening jealousy and a thirst for revenge in her. At the Citron estate, the heroine is greeted with delight and offered the best outfits. The sincere hospitality of Maya and her family becomes a reliable support for Sophia. Every word of flattery from the servants only confirms how perfectly her plan is working. Suddenly, she stops Maya, preparing to play the next act of her performance. The sharp bow shocks the girl, not allowing her to come to her senses. Sophia, with masterfully feigned remorse, apologizes for the quarrel into which she dragged her new friend. Maya's gratitude for her help finally strengthens their alliance, which was based on lies. Maya froze in horror, struck by Sophia's icy calm in the midst of chaos. Fear for her family grips her. As this scandal threatens to destroy their reputation, the heroine takes control of the situation, proposing a daring and quick rescue plan. Throwing the evidence out the window is the only way out, and there is simply no time for doubt. Her passionate plea to trust her becomes a lifeline for Maya in the darkness. By succumbing to her will, Maya gets rid of the poisonous gift, burning all bridges behind her. The girl, with relief, convinces herself that this was the only way to protect the family. Sophia subtly reminds him of another sweetness, testing the depth of her newfound devotion. Naive Maya admires her foresight, not seeing the hidden manipulation behind it. She finally realizes that behind every step of Sophia, there is a brilliant and cold calculation. Behind the mask of innocence lies a keen mind that no one should underestimate. The sincerity of her desperate desire to help becomes the final argument in this game. At that moment, Maya realizes that she is not facing an enemy, but her only chance for salvation. Her father's advice found its echo. She found a patron worthy of her service. The girl kneels, swearing an oath of allegiance to the one who showed her his strength. The heroine accepts her decision with feigned surprise, hiding her triumph. This oath becomes for Maya not a burden, but an honor that she dreamed of. In her past life, she was just her sister's shadow, but now she builds her own environment. Sophia offers her friendship, turning the servant into her most devoted ally. This simple gesture becomes the fulfillment of a dream for Maya that she never dared to think about. This friendship that she had dreamed of for so long had finally become a reality. Their connection was predetermined in their past. Such a tragic life. For Maya, this friendship is an impossible dream come true. For the first time in a long time, Sophia's soul finds peace next to her faithful friend. A secret letter from the prince seals their alliance, making it even more dangerous. Rays of new happiness begin to heal the deep wounds of her past life. She naively believes that a harsh lesson will make her sister retreat forever. A new life is her chance to rewrite everything and protect her family from death. But the prince's gift only ignites the flames of envy and hatred in Alice's soul. However, the sister's fragile world is doomed to collapse in a bloody and brutal denouement. The memory of the mad gleam in her sister's eyes still chills her blood. Bedridden, Alice plays out the drama of an innocent and suffering victim. The doctor's terrifying diagnosis leaves no doubt. It was a brutal attack. With crocodile tears, she skillfully plays on parental feelings of guilt and love. Blind motherly love refuses to believe that her angel could have enemies. A false witness appears, and his words sound like a death sentence for Sophia. But the truth is that at the moment of her sister's fall, there was only a cold smile on her face. The heroine realizes that she underestimated the madness Alice is capable of in pursuit of her goal. However, now she is no longer a weak victim, and this meanness only hardened her. She believes that the truth is on her side, and her words can destroy this web of lies. With feigned excitement, the heroine asks her father about her sister's condition. Her father's heavy sigh confirms that Alice's injuries are serious and could have consequences. Behind her outward submissiveness lies a cold satisfaction from the pain of others. The memory of her sister's false apology only strengthens her belief that she is right. Alice's empty words mean nothing to her. Only the integrity of the prince's gift is important. The father makes a terrible accusation, supported by the testimony of a lying maid. The girl laughs silently at this farce, confident in her father's blind love. Her father's direct question hits her hard, putting her in the position of the prime suspect. He puts pressure on her, trying to extract a confession, promising forgiveness for telling the truth. Surrounded by a wall of mistrust, she stands alone against everyone, denying her guilt. Her desperate cry for truth is drowned out by a wall of cold distrust. Her father's look, full of familiar disappointment, takes her back to the nightmares of the past. The shadows of the past thicken, whispering again of guilt, hatred, and eternal doubts. She begs for faith, swearing her innocence, but her words are just empty sounds. The verdict is passed. Solitary confinement becomes her harsh punishment. His departure feels like a final betrayal. leaving her alone in the void. The agonizing question of why echoes in the silence of her absolute despair. The heart breaks from the cry of the soul, which does not find an answer from the person closest to it. The worst pain is the realization that she has no ally in this battle. Behind him stands the shadow of a false witness, whose words have become the poison that has poisoned his heart. Alice's sinister laugh is a triumph over the stupidity of those who so easily fell into her net. Locked alone, her sister becomes nothing but an annoying obstacle on her way to her goal. Her future is predetermined. She will become the prince's wife, and nothing can stop it. Memories take her back to a carefree childhood, far from palace intrigues. Universal adoration from a young age fed her egoism and belief in her own irresistibility. This love for oneself is based on a firm belief in one's own uniqueness and superiority. Talking to your mother becomes the first step towards realizing your true purpose. The shocking truth about her noble origins forever changes her view of the world. The forbidden love between the maid and the master turned into shame and exile for the mother. Abandoned and alone, she learned of her lover's death only at his cold grave. Sensing trouble, the mother leaves her daughter the only salvation, the name of the good duke. Her cold words about death become a terrible prophecy and a plan for action for Alice. Behind the mother's tender embrace lies a promise that will become a curse for the daughter. The awareness of her noble origin ignites a dangerous flame of ambition in her soul. To clear the way to happiness, she cold-bloodedly gets rid of the only obstacle. In her childish hands are fire and a knife, symbols of ruthless betrayal for her own gain. Against the backdrop of a burning house, she says goodbye to the past, burning away her last drop of humanity. Her performance worked perfectly. The orphan's tears open the doors to a new, rich life for her. In the reflection, she sees not herself, but the chosen one, whose peculiarity justifies any cruelty. Her obsession with her own status as a princess leaves no room in this world for anyone else. The maid's timid apology is a fear of the one whose dark side she has seen. Alice's cloying joy is a mask concealing cold calculation and contempt. Her feigned concern for the maid's health is only part of a cruel performance. The sinister gratitude for perjury becomes a silent threat to Carla. The naive maid, bribed by the doctor's attention, became the perfect puppet. Carla's attempt to justify herself is met with a wall of cold, expectant silence. Alice's icy question backs the terrified maid into a corner, leaving her no choice. Fear for her life forces her to renounce the truth, saving herself at the cost of someone else's fate. Behind Alice's false sympathy lies an icy contempt for the broken victim. She reassures her, knowing that from now on, this soul is completely in her power. An expensive trinket becomes payment for a lie and a symbol of eternal submission. The promise of new trinkets finally buys her loyalty and silence. Behind her joyful laughter lies a cold contempt for the purchased soul. She looks at her new puppet with disgust, seeing in it only a pathetic little dog. There is only room for one princess in this world, and she will destroy any rival. After a few days, the boring role of victim begins to bore her unbearably. She eagerly awaits news of her sister's punishment, anticipating her suffering. Thoughts about Sophia's fate, exile to a monastery or something worse, fill her with joy. But instead of triumph, a shocking betrayal from her most loyal pawn awaits her. Even at this moment, she does not see her failure, only a temporary obstacle in the face of a frightened maid. With an angelic smile, Alice reminds the maid of the lie she was supposed to confirm. She presses her, confident that fear and greed will keep her silent. But Carla, in tears, recants her words, revealing the terrible truth about coercion. Alice masterfully feigns resentment, accusing the maid of cruel slander. Sophia's sudden appearance at the door comes as a complete surprise to the intriguer. The heroine, with a cold smile, reveals her trump card, Carla's repentance and confession. For Alice, the idea that a pawn could develop a conscience seems simply unthinkable. Carla continues her confession, revealing more and more layers of lies into which she was drawn. Losing control, Alice lashes out at the maid in a rage, trying to force her to shut up. Her own lies came back to haunt her when her father grabbed her broken arm. The trap has sprung, and Alice panics as she realizes that her rage has been a fatal mistake. At the most tense moment, her main accomplice, the fraudulent doctor, is caught. Pathetic pleas for forgiveness are met with icy fury in the eyes of the one he betrayed. Sophia, with an innocent smile, suggests a second examination, dealing a crushing blow. The real doctor's verdict mercilessly destroys her lie, revealing the whole truth about the simulation. The look of her father, full of disappointment and anger, becomes more terrible for Alice than any punishment. Surrounded by a wall of accusations, she cannot find words to justify herself to her parents. In her distorted world, everyone around her is to blame, and she is just an innocent victim of her treacherous sister. Her father passes a harsh sentence, sending her to a convent to tame her cruelty. Disbelief and horror distort her face, because she never thought that her lie would lead so far. Despair overwhelms her as the maids drag her by force to a new, terrible fate. Her pride cannot bear the thought of being exiled to a society of losers. In a last desperate attempt, she feigns remorse, but her words are just another lie. The father remains adamant, giving her one last chance to reform in a long exile. Helpless rage and humiliation contort her face as she is led away from her old life. Her insane cry about her princess status is the cry of a wounded ego that refuses to accept defeat. The oath of eternal hatred meets the cold, dispassionate gaze of the winner. With her sister banished from her world, the main threat to her fragile happiness disappears. 8 long years of peace are her reward for this risky and cruel game. Blind parental love does not see the true value of this world, asking a naive question. His naive question hurts her, because she understands that even her father sees her as just an outsider. The victory seems empty to her, because in the eyes of those closest to her, she sees only condemnation. The fragile calm is interrupted by a panicked cry, foreshadowing a new, even greater disaster. An unexpected visit from the prince takes the family drama to a whole new, dangerous level. There is concern in his gaze. Rumors of her unfair punishment have brought him here. He offers her his protection and trust, wanting to hear the truth from her lips. The parents are trying to smooth things over, but now the young prince is dictating the rules. Behind his polite words lies doubt. He does not believe in the simplicity of this conflict. He openly comes to her defense, hurling bitter accusations of injustice at her parents. His words sound like a death sentence, forcing them to realize the full depth of their terrible mistake. Her words about her emotional wound make them realize the depth of her suffering. Her parents' belated repentance finally brings her long-awaited consolation. She forgives them easily because their faith is the best reward for her. In this warm embrace, she finds again the family she almost lost. The prince decisively leads her away from them, making it clear that their conversation is not over yet. In the silence of the garden, he prepares to ask questions to which he never received answers. His penetrating gaze sees right through her. He does not believe that her victory was an accident. She begins to reveal her plan, where the maid's greed became the key to her triumph. Feigned depression and the devotion of her servants became her main weapons in this quiet war. Carla's greed made her blind. She became the perfect pawn, unable to see the setup. Sophia's cold voice catches the thief off guard, interrupting her nighttime escape. With a devilish smile, she accuses the maid of theft, enjoying her horror. The evidence falls to the floor, and Carla's pathetic excuses are drowned out in silence. The heroine looks at her with contempt, calling her a pathetic liar caught red-handed. She accuses Carla of trying to shift the blame onto her by backing her into a corner. Under pressure, the maid admits that she has become a pawn in the hands of the treacherous Alice. Sophia puts her before a choice, forcing her to decide on her side forever. The story of her cunning plan ends, leaving the prince completely bewildered. His genuine laughter is admiration for her intelligence and courage, not condemnation. Her plan worked perfectly, because she knew about Carla's vices from her past life. He sees behind her silence the deep pain she still carries within herself. His sincere desire to share her suffering opens the way to her heart. She recalls his words spoken at their first meeting, which became a support for her. For the first time, she opens her soul to him, telling him about the devastating feeling of loneliness. Tears of relief and gratitude mingle with the smile on her face. She tries to hide her vulnerability, but her tears speak louder than any words. His gentle kiss is a silent promise to always be by her side. He vows to believe her no matter what happens, becoming her unshakable fortress. At this moment, a fragile but real bond, woven from trust, is born between them. 10 years later, their story continues, but now there's more at stake. A grown-up Sophia greets a new day full of new plans and accomplishments with a smile. Years of hard work have paid off. She now holds her perfectly built empire in her hands. Her triumph is the result not only of her intelligence, but also of the difficulties she experienced together with Maya. A faithful friend fondly recalls their shared journey, full of ups and downs. The heroine, unaccustomed to praise, is embarrassed by the sincere words of the one who has always been by her side. But even now, the shadow of the past makes her shudder with painful memories. The expulsion of the sister was not the end, but only the beginning of a long preparation for a new battle. She knew she had to build an impenetrable fortress to meet the enemy's return. Her daring ambitions reached the king himself, challenging the very foundations of this world. Even in her youth, she swore to herself that she would never again become a victim of someone else's will. Memories of the king's cruelty from the past deprive her of the right to make even the slightest mistake. In front of the monarch, she boldly lays out her ambitious plan, where everything is at stake. His dismissive words about a girl's dreams hurt her deeply, but do not break her spirit. For a moment, she gives in to despair, fearing that her only hope has collapsed. But a sudden glint in the king's eyes changes everything, turning mockery into lively interest. He sees in her audacity not stupidity, but the potential for untold profits and power. Even the prince, her faithful ally, is impressed by her bold and risky idea. The king gives his verdict. If her plan brings prosperity, she will get everything. She holds back her glee, realizing that this is only the first step towards her goal. But the prince suddenly intervenes, considering the royal generosity too dangerous for her. The archbishop's unexpected visit opens up new, brilliant prospects for her. Her people's safety report confirms that she is doing everything correctly. Sophia's influence grows, forcing even the church to seek her favor. The priest lavishes unctuous flattery, trying to charm the unapproachable heroine. She accepts his rules of the game, hiding her true thoughts behind a polite mask. Unexpected memories of the first meeting with the prince stir up old wounds. She is reliving that nightmare again, when the whole world turned away from her because of her sister's lies. The sticky fear of mistrust and loneliness still haunts her even in reality. The girl quickly wipes away her tears, ashamed to show her momentary weakness. His tender kiss and vow of eternal fidelity heal her wounded soul. An impudent visitor causes a scandal by demanding work to which he has no right. The situation escalates when he uses force against a defenseless employee. Maya's sudden appearance stops the conflict, bringing timid relief. The arrogant boor looks down on her, not seeing real power in the woman, but an icy voice from behind her makes him freeze in mute amazement. The appearance of Sophia Orvain, the true owner, comes as a shock to him. With a cold smile, she confirms her status, putting the impudent man in his place. Her aura of power suppresses his will, causing him to tremble with inexplicable fear. In desperation, he reveals his true goal, the thirst for easy and big money. Her short and merciless refusal shatters his last hope into pieces. Her business is not just trading, but providing the best people as the most valuable commodity. Accusations of discrimination are dashed against her cold, impenetrable wall. She mercilessly knocks his arrogance down a notch, pointing out that it's not a matter of status, but of his rotten nature. Her keen hearing picks up someone else's accent, turning a minor detail into a powerful weapon. With a penetrating glance, she exposes him, confirming her suspicions about his origin. The crowd's whispers add to his humiliation, turning him into an unpleasant outsider in their eyes. She corners him, demanding that he prove his innocence and the purity of his past. Under pressure, he breaks down, revealing his pathetic story of hunger and poverty. His pride is trampled, and he is ready to do anything for the chance that was taken from him. The sudden appearance of the archbishop comes as a shock to him, but as a new trump card for her. The Church of Luminos is the only recognized religion, a symbol of purity and mercy. Archbishop Faust is a powerful figure whose authority is recognized even by the king himself. He provides protection and shelter to a desperate person, playing the role of a magnanimous savior. Confused and distrustful, he cannot understand the reason for such sudden kindness. The priest delivers a pompous speech about salvation, hiding his true motives behind it. His pious smile is just a mask behind which hides a cold and calculating mind. By flirting with a humiliated person, he demonstrates his power and imaginary compassion. Sophia can hardly stand this performance, seeing in it only cunning and hypocrisy. But behind his fine words lies a pragmatic approach. Their mercy is not selfless. The girl realizes that in this pious trickster, she has found the ideal business partner. Sophia gives him not just a job, but a chance to fight for his future and family. Her encouraging smile becomes a ray of light for him in the impenetrable darkness of despair. Shocked to the depths of his soul, he tearfully thanks her for her unimaginable generosity. Her subordinates admire the wisdom and strength of their mistress, dreaming of becoming like her. She takes pleasure in accepting everyone's praise, playing the role of the gracious savior. This performance is just a well-thought-out move to strengthen the alliance with the church. Under the influence of religion, even the most desperate souls find faith and hope for redemption. Partnership with the church becomes a guarantee of the reliability and honesty of its company. Clients trust them, knowing that each employee has undergone rigorous selection and verification. With the support of the king and the church, her trading empire becomes an unstoppable force. The success of her venture brings her relief, but anxiety still lingers. The prince's sudden appearance and his tender compliment take her by surprise. Behind the courtesies between the prince and the archbishop lies a tense struggle for influence. The thought of an unfinished conversation with the cunning priest haunts her. The prince's casual behavior around her causes her a storm of embarrassment. This unexpected meeting disrupts the usual course of things, creating an awkward situation. He easily admits to his frequent visits, which confuses the girl even more. The young man openly declares his intentions, pushing the archbishop into the background. The priest plays his trump card, switching his attention to works of mercy. Letters of gratitude from rescued children become a powerful weapon in his hands. Behind her business lay another secret mission, developing a cure for the plague. With the company's funds, she financed research and provided free assistance to patients. Her main goal was to stop her sister, who had used the epidemic for her own purposes in the past. The villain of the past skillfully manipulated chaos, sowing fear and strengthening her power. Knowing how many people she has been able to help fills her heart with light and joy. She looks with sincere gratitude at the one who helped her carry out this plan. The priest skillfully translates her gratitude into donations, and the prince admires her success. This triumph not only saved lives, but also indestructibly strengthened her position in society. As she says goodbye to the prince, she thanks him for his support, still maintaining her distance. His sudden question about formalities catches her off guard, hinting at something more. He notices that she acts as distantly with him as she does with others. His bold request for intimacy breaks down the wall of formality between them. Every meeting between them is now filled with sweet nonsense that makes her heart flutter. He changed, and his former stiffness was replaced by confidence and tenderness. She remembers his past, a cold-blooded prince, deprived of warmth and love. But now his touches are so tender that she loses her head. Just one look from him makes her heart melt. Forgetting about everything in the world, she timidly tries to understand what he means, afraid of being wrong in her guesses. Without waiting for an answer, he pulls her towards him, breaking down the last barriers. His invitation to the ball becomes not just a proposal, but a declaration of deep feelings. His proposal sounds to her like an informal engagement, a promise of the future. Happiness overwhelms her because she sees sincere love and tenderness in his eyes. The calm before the storm. The royal carriage brings the main threat to their world. Under the monastic robes lies the same Alice, but now her hatred has become stronger. Her return is a promise of revenge that will drown their fragile world in blood. The farewell to the prince is filled with tenderness and anxiety about the upcoming separation. His promise to return is a ray of light in the darkness gathering over her. Happiness seems to her like a dream that is about to be interrupted by cruel reality. A terrible memory of an execution in a past life poisons her present with the poison of fear. But now she is not alone. She has loyal friends behind her, ready to fight for her. The only thing that matters is the prince's choice, his love, and his promise. With this confidence in her heart, she is ready to face any storm without fear. But the sister's feigned joy sounds like an ominous omen of impending disaster. Behind her apparent delight lies the boredom of the long wait and the thirst for a new game. Their meeting is a clash of two worlds, two destinies, where one must lose. Sophia, with icy calm, reminds her sister of her illegal return. Alice, with an angelic smile, turns her escape into an innocent surprise. She easily deflects all accusations, making her sister appear suspicious and angry. The heroine realizes that Alice returned ahead of schedule, breaking all the rules and agreements. The years in the monastery did not tame her, but only turned her into a wild beast, striving for freedom. The monastery surrendered, unable to withstand her aggression and endless attempts to escape. Blind parental love joyfully welcomes the prodigal daughter back into the family. They explain her return by medical clearance, turning a blind eye to the truth. Alice puts all the blame on childish stupidity, addressing her words to her main rival. Behind her confessions of envy lies a poisonous reminder of who the real princess is here. She puts on a heartbreaking show of remorse, begging for forgiveness and a second chance. Her tears and promises to improve are just part of a new, even more insidious game. Parents easily fall into her net, believing in a miraculous transformation of their daughter. Sophia watches this farce with a cold smile. Knowing the true value of these words, she understands that her sister's return is timed to coincide with the prince's birthday and the fight for his hand. She is firmly convinced that the prince will choose only her, and no one can stop him. The sisters' return is the perfect moment to settle their feud once and for all. She looks forward to the ball, where the masks will be dropped and Alice's true nature will emerge. A sleepless night full of worries leaves a mark of fatigue and anxiety on her face. But even exhausted, she continues to work, strengthening her empire against the coming storm. Maya's cries for help break her out of her routine, foreshadowing a new, unexpected conflict. The arrogant aristocrat looks at her with disdain, not recognizing the woman's authority. His pathetic attempts to humiliate her are shattered by the icy calm of a true lady. The sudden recognition and delight in his eyes is replaced by shock and disgust on her face. He sees in her his destiny, and she sees only a disgusting pursuer from the past. The stranger's crazy behavior leaves her shocked and completely perplexed. He mistakes her silence for a sign of happiness, drowning in his illusions. Maya resolutely stands up for her, not allowing the madman to even touch her. His pitiful cries of his status are drowned out by the silence as the guards lead him away. Behind them, Sophia and Maya become an unstoppable force, united in their decision. As he leaves, he hurls threats at them, unable to come to terms with his humiliation. His obsession turns this encounter into a test that will bind them forever. After his departure, Sophia has difficulty coming to her senses, trying to understand who this madman is. It turns out that this man has been hanging around for a week, waiting for the right moment. His self-confidence is based on his high birth and contempt for the lower classes. After experiencing shock, Sophia decides to strengthen security, anticipating new threats. But Maya brings bad news. There is another, more serious problem looming over their business. One of their regular customers fell victim to a daring and clever scam. Fake workers, posing as them, gained access to his lands. The naive count believed the imposters and allowed them to rule his fields. When the deception was revealed, it was already too late. The harvest was destroyed, and the fields were devastated. This news shocks Sophia, because not only the harvest is at stake, but also her reputation. It turns out that the real workers received a fake letter ordering them to stay home. She understands that someone is deliberately trying to destroy everything she has built for so long. Putting aside her emotions, she develops a clear plan of action to catch the imposters and save the business. Maya is pleased to report that all issues were resolved thanks to her prompt intervention. Luckily, no other customers were harmed, saving their reputation from complete ruin. Although the main villain is still at large, his accomplices have already been spotted and are under surveillance. Count Gustav, who became a victim of deception, does not hold a grudge against them, trusting them completely. Their honesty and many years of work became the guarantee of trust that could not be destroyed by outside intrigue. Sophia kisses her faithful friend's hand with gratitude, appreciating her devotion and support. At this moment, their business relationship develops into a real, strong friendship. Meanwhile, the obsessive stalker sees Maya as the main obstacle to his love. Immersed in her work, Maya doesn't notice how the darkness thickens outside the window, bringing a new threat. This stressful time exhausts her, making her forget about rest and her own safety. The desire to help Sophia becomes Maya's main motivation, overshadowing her fatigue. She takes on the matter with determination, promising to put an end to all these problems. But behind her, darkness is already thickening, and the shadow of a possessed madman hangs over her. The next morning, her subordinates recall her fortitude the previous day with admiration. As a token of gratitude, one of them decides to clean her office, wanting to help in some way. But instead of order, he finds his mistress unconscious, plunged into horror. Grief reigns in the Citron family home. Maya has become the victim of a brutal attack. Sophia can hardly contain her rage, seeing her friend wounded and defenseless. Maya's parents are devastated but grateful that their daughter is alive. Their apologies hurt Sophia because she blames herself for not being able to protect her friend. A feeling of guilt tears at her heart. She could not protect the one who trusted her, but Maya's parents refuse to blame her, seeing what happened as nothing more than a tragic accident. The fact that even experienced security guards were neutralized speaks to the high level of the attackers. Their words of support and concern for her safety only strengthen her determination to find those responsible. Maya comes to, and her first words are a weak muttering about the horror she experienced. Memories of the attack, the chaos, the pain, the helplessness, torn her even in her delirium. Even on the edge of consciousness, she blames herself for failing to protect something important. Sophia tenderly reassures her, telling her that her life is the only thing that matters. Tears of relief and joy mix with grief on her face when she sees her friend alive. She understands that all these events are not a coincidence, but links in one chain leading to one enemy. Her policy of neutrality proved to be a mistake, because in this game, one cannot remain on the sidelines. The attack on Maya was the last straw for her. An icy fury froze in her eyes. She would find the culprits and make them pay. A sudden call from her sister interrupts her plans, foreshadowing a new, unpleasant clash. With a false smile, Alice hands her father's invitation, hiding her gloating glee. Sophia struggles to remain calm, sensing that there is another trap behind this. Alice's gloating grin gives her away. She's enjoying Maya's suffering. A terrible guess pierces her mind. The return of her sister and all these troubles are connected. She vows to herself to get to the bottom of the truth, no matter what the cost. Talking to her father becomes the first step in her investigation that will determine their future. Sophia's father reports with alarm the misfortune that has befallen Lady Maya. The girl understands that the situation has gone too far, and it is time to act. A man hesitantly begins a difficult and unpleasant conversation with his daughter. The heroine, with icy calm, offers her father a radical solution to the problem. She shrewdly guesses the true reason for his concern. The dirty rumor about Sophia, like a poisonous snake, is spreading through high society. The father, broken by the pressure, begs his daughter to lie low and wait out the storm. The girl smiles dazzlingly, because she already knows the name of her enemy. The heroine's confidence shocks her father, while she calls the gossip stupid. Sophia coldly anticipates revenge, forcing the culprit to pay for everything. The father is horrified to realize that inaction will only help his enemies, who all have the same sinister plan. Sophia, with a predatory smile, promises her father to triumphantly resolve all problems by Prince Leo's birthday. A man with a heavy heart, but complete faith in his daughter, gives her carte blanche for a risky plan. At a luxurious ball, guests, blinded by the splendor, whisper about the incredible wealth of the hostess. Amidst the admiring gossip about the magic of her success, a smug Lord Guise appears on camera. The dim-witted Lord Guise boastfully claims that his thriving business is just a casual hobby. Behind his back, the guests gloat, recalling the man's resounding failure and his dubious position. 6 months ago, messengers arrived at his estate with a royal decree, foreshadowing trouble. The official angrily reads out a list of Guise's crimes, accusing him of ruining the nation and engaging in illegal activities. The frightened aristocrat is shamefully stripped of his title of count, condemning him to eternal oblivion. The royal decree mercilessly deprives him not only of his title, but also of all his lands. Broken and humiliated, Guise cannot understand why fate treated him so cruelly. He blames everyone around him for his fall, servants, subjects, and even his own parents. Denying reality, the man madly convinces himself of his genius and vows to return everything. In his inflamed mind, Sophia becomes the key to returning to high society and achieving unprecedented heights. Obsessed with this thought, he finds himself at the door of her trading company, overwhelmed by his own obsession. The whole world knows Lady Sophia as a brilliant aristocrat who created her own powerful guild. But Guise sees in her not talent, but only enchanting beauty and kindness, which drive him crazy. He decides that this girl is made for him and should belong only to him. Unable to get close to the object of his passion, he curses fate in despair, shouting out her name. A mysterious hooded figure interrupts Guise's despair, promising a meeting that will change everything. Intrigued and confused, he follows the stranger to a secluded monastery. In a light-flooded hall, he sees a nun praying, and her silhouette instantly captivates him. Lady Alice, angelically beautiful, turns around as if she had been waiting for him all her life. In the confessional, he pours out his soul, and she, having listened to him, becomes his savior. Overjoyed, Guise thanks his patroness for the new estate. The nun slyly calls him her elder sister's destined one, Mr. Raccoon. She disarms him with flattery, comparing him to a cute little animal from the Far East. Her eyes gleam predatorily as she pitches him the idea of becoming a hero in her sister's eyes. The girl laughs innocently, but Guise goes cold, realizing that he has become a pawn in someone else's game. Guise grins maliciously, because now he has the perfect plan to get Sophia and the high title. His mysterious accomplice is confident of success because their insidious plan is going like clockwork. In his pathetic dreams, he already sees himself as an all-powerful duke with a beautiful heroine at his side. Burning with impatience, he hugs the letter to himself, imagining the girl in his disgusting embrace. A love letter from Giz Razef flies to Sophia Orwin, carrying poison and sweet deception. The girl accepts the invitation to dinner, hiding her true and merciless intentions behind a polite smile. Blinded by her beauty, he fawns and fusses, not noticing the trap he has fallen into. Sophia alludes to the recent rumors with icy calm, carefully watching his nervous reaction. In her thoughts, she turns to her faithful protector, who discreetly guards her from any threat. Just a few hours ago, preparations for the decisive move in this dangerous game began in her castle. Sophia studies the dossier on Giza, a commoner from a fallen noble family, with cold interest. The documents mercilessly reveal the story of his inglorious fall, full of despair and failure. But contrary to common sense, he continues to live in luxury, which arouses even more suspicion. A connection with the influential Count Gustav becomes the key to his sudden enrichment. The girl, with a satisfied smile, thanks her faithful assistant for the prompt and accurate information. He modestly calls his dangerous work a simple hobby, which makes her smile sincerely. Now the heroine's suspicions only grow stronger because she feels someone's invisible hand behind Giza's back. She understands that such an insignificant person could not have planned such daring incidents alone. Behind the pitiful puppet lurks the mysterious Alice, the real master of this sinister game. Now, knowing the name of the enemy, Sophia is ready to pass on new, decisive information to her knight. The heroine studies the report on the social events organized by Guys with icy calm. The news that he is brazenly spreading rumors about their affair leaves her shocked and furious. They are both stunned by such audacity, not understanding what kind of game their enemy is playing. Her companion explains bitterly that thanks to money, people began to listen to empty gossip. The faithful knight, burning with jealousy, demands a refutation of the vile lie, amusingly frightening the girl. Sophia smiles wickedly, suggesting that she use Giza's obsession for her own purposes. She casually shows off the dinner invitation she has already received from the scoundrel. The girl stuns her protector with the news that she has already agreed to meet with the enemy. Her memory flashes back to everyone who suffered at the hands of the villain, who discredited her company and wounded Maya. She is determined to personally break into the beast's lair to obtain evidence of his guilt. Her defender anxiously clarifies the date of the dangerous meeting, and the girl's cold response only increases the tension. Burning with rage and anxiety, he declares that he will not let her go into the beast's lair alone. In the heart of enemy territory, she is relieved to realize that her camouflaged guard has gone unnoticed. Playing the role of an enchanted simpleton, the heroine skillfully sets her nets, admiring the imaginary successes of Guys. Hooked by flattery, the smug fool puffs himself up with pride, boasting of his achievements. He leans in conspiratorially to reveal the secret about his mysterious patron, and the girl feigns shock. Overcoming her disgust, she allows him to violate her personal space in order to obtain valuable information. Her faithful knight is ready to rush to her aid, but she stops him, seeing this as an ideal opportunity. Smiling seductively, Sophia agrees to hear him out in private, anticipating receiving decisive evidence. Completely fooled, Guys leads her to his secret place, unaware that he is walking straight into a trap. Giz, with the delight of a maniac, promises to show her a unique place, and Sophia plays along, feigning interest. He proudly presents her with the doll room, but her icy gaze already foreshadows a storm. Stunned by the bad taste, she sarcastically asks if this is his secret passion. Her face hardens as she begins to guess the sinister purpose of this room. With a disgusting grin, he announces that this golden cage was prepared especially for her. The girl is furious at his statement that he is going to protect her from all dangers. She, with a predatory smile, clarifies what dangers he is talking about, luring him into a trap. The scoundrel smugly hints at the rumors he himself spread when offering his help. Sophia coquettishly praises his knowledge, causing him to let down his guard under her flattery. He winks smugly, boasting about his sources, not realizing that his game is up. Sophia sees through his pathetic trap, continuing the game to find out the name of his mysterious friend. Maddened by his own importance, he offers to lock her in a golden cage, taking her company for himself. With a disgusting lust in his eyes, He promises to make her happy, revealing his true intentions. The heroine calmly puts him in his place, mentioning the need to consult with the company president, Maya. Guy speaks disdainfully of her friend, calling her incompetent and unworthy of her attention. He arrogantly humiliates Maya's family, contrasting her low origins with his noble blood. In his delirium, he proclaims himself the only worthy man next to her, and her patience snaps. Sophia's rage explodes in a crushing blow, cutting off his vile speech mid-sentence. With icy contempt in her gaze, she calls him trash, who dared to desecrate her friend's name. She fondly recalls how she personally invited Maya to join her company, as their friendship is priceless. Sophia proudly states that their company exists only thanks to Maya's wisdom and talent. She fondly remembers her only friend, whom she trusts more than herself. An icy rage contorts her face as she asks how he dared call her friend incompetent. Her voice rings with contempt as she hurls his own filthy insults back at him. With deadly calm, she hints that by humiliating Maya, he was actually describing himself. An explosion of uncontrollable rage sends the villain to the floor, where he belongs. Towering over him, she disgustedly orders the insect to beg for forgiveness for her friend. In a panic, he tries to justify himself and accidentally lets slip about the attack on Maya. Her gaze becomes razor-sharp as she caught him in a fatal mistake. She drives him into a corner because only his own people knew about the attack, and now he has nowhere to run. A deathly calm Sophia delivers her verdict, accusing him of attacking Maya. Cornered, he erupts into an animalistic rage, spewing insults and threats. The maddened scoundrel rushes at the girl, intending to prove his imaginary superiority by force. Her faithful protector rushes down the corridor, cursing every second of delay. In his hands is irrefutable proof of guilt, a document that will forever reduce Giza to dust. An alarming roar makes the young man's heart freeze with chilling horror for Sophia's life. Prince Leo bursts into the room, ready to destroy anyone who dared to harm her. He finds her unharmed and radiant, sitting on her fallen enemy, and breathes a sigh of relief. Even humiliated and defeated, Guise continues to scream, unaware of who stands before him. Having recognized the prince, he, in horror, reveals his last secret, confessing to the assassination attempt and signing his own death warrant. Prince Leo coldly informs him that he personally took care of the mercenaries, dispelling the scoundrel's last hopes. He mercilessly presents the defeated Giza with irrefutable evidence found in his office. Seeing a forged letter designed to defraud a trading company, Guise freezes in mute horror. This false notice, identical to the one sent to Count Gustav, becomes the final nail in his coffin. The accusation of sabotaging his own company falls upon him, leaving no chance for salvation. In a panic, he tries to deny the obvious, but his pathetic excuses are drowned in the contempt of the victors. In despair, he accuses them of conspiracy, but the sudden appearance of guests interrupts his hysteria. An elegant stranger, smiling, asks permission to join this exciting performance. Ryan reports that all the enemies in the mansion have been captured, and the prince orders the main criminal to be taken away. Guise clings to his title, not realizing that in the face of royal power, he has no rights. Prince Leo smirks and challenges the worthless man to repeat his words to the face of the heir to the throne. The realization of total collapse hits Giza as he is led into the darkness to meet his fate. Having recovered from the shock, Sophia shyly thanks her savior for his invaluable help. Overcoming all barriers, the prince grabs the girl in his arms, catching her by surprise. He hugs her tightly, speaking with pain in his voice about his fear for her and her disheveled outfit. The heroine apologizes guiltily, but he only hugs her tighter, finding comfort in her closeness. She reassures him with a sly smile, boasting that the prince's self-defense lessons were not in vain. He sadly thinks that such a strong girl could have managed without him, but she resolutely denies it. Sophia tenderly admits that only his presence gives her the courage to act so recklessly. In his heart lives the hope of becoming the only haven where a brave heroine can allow herself to be weak. With a trembling heart, she admits that she has strived all her life to become his most reliable support. His heart melts with happiness, because her carefree smile next to him is his main reward. The next day, in the cold dungeon, Guise, broken and crushed, curses his unenviable fate. He shakes the bars in despair, but his pitiful cries are interrupted by an unexpected and ominous voice. A mysterious old woman appears at his cell, promising him a quick release with a deceptively kind smile. Recognizing her as Lady Alice's messenger, he greedily clings to the last hope of salvation. Not sensing any danger, he drains the bottle of wine in one gulp, hastening his savior and his own death. A sudden pain shoots through him, and he looks at his hands in horror, realizing the fatal mistake he has made. The old woman reveals the truth with a malicious grin. Salvation is promised, but not in this life. In his death throes, he falls to the cold floor, and his killer silently disappears into the darkness. A loyal servant reports to Lady Alice about the cold-blooded elimination of an unnecessary pawn, Lord Guy's. Alice sighs with annoyance at the failure of the plan to denigrate her sister, but her eyes glow with anticipation. With a crazy grin, she awaits the ball, the day of her triumph and transformation into a real princess. Maya, recovering from the attack, admires her friend with genuine delight before the ball. In a dazzling outfit, Sophia exudes confidence as she prepares for the decisive battle at the festival. The friends sadly say goodbye, but Maya convinces the heroine to enjoy the evening for the sake of Prince Leo. The appearance of the powerful ducal family of Orvan causes a sensation, demonstrating their unshakable power. Lady Alice, in the guise of an innocent angel, evokes whispers and admiration for her deceptive simplicity. Despite the appearance of a rival, all eyes are on Sophia, the true queen of the evening. Guests are generous with compliments, praising the incomparable heroine's intelligence, beauty, and business acumen. Sophia notes with a satisfied smile that the dirty rumors about her have finally dissipated, giving way to the truth. The guests are burning with curiosity, wondering who the crown prince will choose as his companion for this evening. The heroine, with the confidence of a queen, realizes that her status as the prince's bride predetermines her great future. Prince Leo, with anxiety and tenderness, searches the crowd for her, the only one who occupies all his thoughts. He recalls yesterday's events with regret, regretting that he could not be with her in difficult times. The news of the Orvan family's arrival makes his heart beat faster in anticipation of the long-awaited meeting. The faithful assistant whispers to the prince with a smile that Sophia is wearing his gift, causing the young man to blush deeply. The king teases his son with fatherly tenderness, noticing his undisguised excitement and happiness. An embarrassed Leo tries to maintain his composure, but his father just waves him off, reminding him of the holiday. The young man, with deep respect, thanks his father, the king, for blessing his union with Sophia. The king, with sincere love, gives his paternal blessing to the union of his son. A sudden commotion in the hall makes the prince alert and rush to help. He freezes in horror when he sees his beloved with a wound on her face and a dirty dress. The evil Alice giggles with feigned innocence, blaming the victim of her meanness for everything. Prince Leo, not paying attention to the culprit, rushes to Sophia, full of concern for her. The heroine, with the dignity of a queen, tries to leave, hiding pain and humiliation behind a mask of calm. He always knew that behind her cool reserve there was more than met the eye. The young man does not doubt for a second that her envious stepsister is behind this vile intrigue. For him, neither titles nor gossip are important, but only the fact that his beloved needs him now. In order to be useful to Sophia, he will do anything and move any mountains without hesitation. The guests' hypocritical sympathy gives way to envious whispers about the Grand Duke's generosity towards Sophia. The triumphant return of the brilliant couple leaves everyone speechless, striking with its beauty and unity. The king greets the guests with his commanding voice, and a solemn silence reigns in the hall. He intrigues everyone, promising another joyful announcement that will change the fate of the kingdom. Their gazes reflect love and long anticipation, because the hour of their shared triumph has finally arrived. Ghosts of a past full of pain and humiliation momentarily darken her happiness, reminding her of the price of this victory. But she faces her future with a smile, ready to pay off all the debts of the past forever. The poisonous whispers of her envious sister from the past only strengthen her determination to take back what is rightfully hers. At the very height of the celebration, the king brings the main intriguer onto the stage, introducing Alice to the entire court. Leo listens in bewilderment to the eulogy of Alice's holiness, feeling the icy breath of lies and deceit. Behind the king's hypocritical speeches about Alice's devotion, Sophia sees only one thing: her place next to the prince has been stolen. The monarch's words fall like thunder, announcing his son's engagement to the self-proclaimed saint, Lady Alice. The hall explodes with bewilderment, because everyone knows that the crown prince's true bride is Lady Sophia. Behind the shocked couple, Alice's face distorts into a mad and triumphant grimace of pure victory. Prince Leo, blinded by rage and pain from betrayal, desperately demands an explanation from his father. He declares to everyone that his only bride was and will be only Sophia, standing next to him. The king, with icy calm, challenges his son, questioning his loyalty to the crown and his father. Addressing his stunned guests, he prepares to deal the final, crushing blow to the heroine's reputation. A terrible prophecy escapes his lips. In the very near future, this woman will become a criminal. He accuses her of conspiring with the church and plotting against the royal family, signing her death warrant. Prince Leo is furious and demands proof, as Sophia's loyalty to the crown and country is undeniable and pure. The king, with a devilish grin, declares that he has a witness whose power is capable of seeing through any lie. He calls Alice Orwin this all-seeing eye, presenting her as a source of irrefutable truth. Sophia asks for the floor with icy calm, preparing to shatter this theater of the absurd. She challenges, asking how her sister, supposedly locked in the church, could know about her affairs. Archbishop Mikel of the Holy City suddenly appears and interrupts her, promising to explain everything. The guests are shocked, because in front of them is one of the pillars of the church, a powerful representative of the saint faction. The priest claims that for many years, on the orders of the Pope himself, he searched for the true saint. He declares Alice to be the reincarnation of the goddess, claiming that divine providence has led him to her. Alice, with an angelic smile, promises to lead the people, hiding her black soul behind a mask of holiness. The archbishop announces that Alice must complete her first mission before heading to the Holy City. Sviatosha hypocritically claims that her divine gift allowed her to see her sister's insidious plans. She rushes to Sophia with crocodile tears, assuring her that she betrayed her only for her own good. Like a snake, she wraps herself around her sister, begging her to come to her senses before it is too late. But behind the mask of repentance lies a mad grin, anticipating complete and final triumph. The king, dazzled by her performance, gives his verdict, blessing his son's engagement and sealing it with his will. Prince Leo, unable to bear this betrayal, looks at his father with fury, not believing what is happening. He turns to his beloved with tenderness and pain, seeking an answer and support in her eyes. Sophia looks at him with one last hope, and her silent question hangs in the tense silence. With unwavering faith and love in his eyes, he answers without hesitation that he believes her, and her alone. Gathering all her will into a fist, Sophia turns with icy contempt to the king and her treacherous sister. She falls dramatically to the floor, declaring that accusations about something that has not yet happened are pointless. Alice rejoices internally, reveling in her sister's humiliation and her own, as it seems to her, complete victory. But the heroine, with a devilish grin, warns them against future remorse for their fatal choice. With her head held high, she leaves the hall, leaving behind a trail of shock, bewilderment, and fear. Sophia's self-confidence baffles Alice, but she chalks it up to the pathetic behavior of a loser. The villainess's face is distorted by a mad grimace, because now, finally, everything belongs only to her. Prince Leo, in a rage, tries to break through to his father, demanding an audience, but is stopped by the guards. The young man finds himself trapped, locked and powerless, in front of closed doors, and his father's betrayal. Desperate but not broken, he calls on his faithful assistant Ryan, ready to begin his game. Prince Leo is jokingly frightened by his elusive assistant, who moves silently, like a ghost. Ryan is surprised by the young man's outward calm, but he simply brushes off his remark. However, behind the icy mask, the assistant hides the same pain from the betrayal of the one he trusted. Burning with rage, the young man rushes after his father, desperately demanding an explanation for his monstrous act. The king cuts his son off with icy contempt, declaring that he will not tolerate rebellious pawns in his game. He gives a merciless order to lock up the crown prince, and Ryan, bowing his head, obeys. The young man, with pain in his voice, accuses his assistant of knowing about the king's plans and remaining silent. He desperately warns Ryan that this decision will destroy the country, handing it over to the power of the church. But he, with cold detachment, declares that his loyalty lies only with the king and not with the prince. Leo, with fury and contempt, throws in his face the accusation of thoughtless and slavish obedience. Ryan leaves the prince with an inscrutable face, leaving him alone with his pain and broken hopes. Left alone, Leo bitterly realizes that he has been betrayed by those closest to him. His only light in this darkness is the image of Sophia, and he prays only for her safety. The next day, Chaos and confusion reign in the trading company after the scandalous news. The staff are horrified as they discuss the appearance of the self-proclaimed saint and her rise above their mistress. Maya is furious that the world has so blindly believed this lie, forgetting about the true goddess. But Sophia, with a disarming laugh, calms her friend down, preventing her from hurting herself in anger. Amazed by her resilience, Maya admires her mistress's fortitude, which did not break under the blow. Despite the difficult night, the heroine calms her faithful friend with tenderness and care. Maya's unwavering devotion gives Sophia strength and confidence that she is not alone in this battle. The friends join forces, and Sophia confidently declares that she completely relies on Maya. But the heroine's thoughts are occupied by the fate of Prince Leo, locked away, awaiting a forced marriage with Alice. She understands that if her lover does not break, he may be forced to marry the impostor. Sophia realizes with disdain that the king fears her growing power and is trying to eliminate the threat to his throne. Maya reveals her connection to the Saint faction, which generously sponsors the king. However, the successes of the other factions supporting Sophia cause envy and irritation among their enemies. The heroine realizes that the king and the Saint faction have formed an alliance to destroy her and her supporters. Their devious plan began with elevating Alice to sainthood to facilitate her marriage to the prince. She admits with chagrin that they underestimated what a thorn this false saint would prove to be. With a cold glint in her eyes, Sophia announces that it is time to act, and Maya already knows. She has a plan. A week later, Sophia and Maya arrive in the Holy City, preparing for the final and decisive battle. They are met by Archbishop Faust, their faithful ally, whose eyes show anxiety and fatigue. Sophia notices with pain how exhausted he is by this unequal struggle for truth and justice. The sudden appearance of Alice, feigning surprise, makes the heroine tense, expecting a new meanness. The impostor mockingly offers to listen to her prayers, but Sophia coldly rejects her hypocritical offer. Alice, with a malicious grin, states that she knows about her pain over the loss of Prince Leo. She triumphantly announces that soon, not only the groom, but also Sophia's entire company will belong to her. In her mad delight, she proclaims that she will take everything from her sister, leaving her nothing. Maya, in a rage, rushes to her friend's defense, but Alice only laughs in her face, reveling in her power. With a devilish glint in her eyes, she reminds them that the king himself is on her side, and their fate is sealed. Reveling in her power, Alice gloats that thanks to the king, all her wishes will now come true. She turns to Maya with venomous gratitude, hinting that it was her lessons that led to this triumph. A fateful memory emerges, where the naive Maya herself suggested to the villain the path to power through the king. The impostor declares herself Maya's new mistress, brazenly demonstrating her power right in front of Sophia. With a mad gleam in her eyes, she whispers to her frightened friend that all this is the will of the goddess. But instead of fear and despair, Alice hears only the ringing and contemptuous laughter of her sister. Sophia mercilessly hits her pride, reminding her of her stupidity and inability to even make simple calculations. Hugging her faithful friend, she dismisses her sister's pathetic threats as nothing more than a funny and clumsy joke. The heroine, with a grin, suggests that she trade the role of a saint for that of a comedic actress, which suits her better. Alice's face is distorted with rage and bewilderment, because her sister's laughter destroys her triumph and sows fear in her soul. Alice smugly declares that she won't have to bother with the calculations, because Maya will do it. Sophia ironically lists the boring duties of a company owner, hinting at her sister's incompetence. She suggests with a venomous grin that even reading simple words is an impossible task for Alice. The impostor's face distorts with humiliation, because she understands that her sister is openly mocking her. In an attempt to save face, she declares herself a saint who is not fit to engage in such mundane matters. With theatrical pathos, she promises everyone present to perform a real miracle to prove her strength. Sophia and Maya watch this performance with bewilderment, not understanding what kind of trick she has planned. Enthusiastic followers bring her a sacred box, begging for divine intervention. The heroine watches her manipulations with suspicion, expecting another cheap trick. After an awkward pause, Alice triumphantly opens the box, filled to the brim with gold, declaring it her miracle. The duped crowd chants the name of their new saint in ecstasy, oblivious to the obvious deception. Sophia watches this circus with disdain, easily figuring out her sister's cheap trick. She quickly figures out a simple scheme with an accomplice hidden under the altar, But Maya notices a discrepancy. The heroine comes to the conclusion that Alice has her own person among the believers who pulled off this trick. Archbishop Faustus confirms her guess with admiration, calling the impostor's actions pathetic. But Sophia understands that she can't raise that much money through tricks alone, and she looks for another source of their wealth. Her keen mind and insight suggest that there is something more behind the scenes of this game. That same night, an uninvited and extremely unpleasant guest enters the chambers of the imprisoned Prince Leo. Alice, with a cloying smile, invades his privacy, irritating him with her intrusive presence. She notes with delight that he recognized her without even looking, reveling in his attention and her power. With disgusting familiarity, Alice clings to the prince, cooing about his non-existent love for her. He pushes her away in anger, but the impostor only feigns hurt innocence, reveling in his anger. She reminds him with icy calm of his duty, because in order to produce an heir, he will be forced to marry. Prince Leo is shocked by her impudence, not understanding how she cannot see that she is just a pawn. He knows that his cynical father will never believe in a saint and uses her in his dirty games. In his mind, she is already discarded like a bloody rag when her usefulness is exhausted. He is amazed by her self-confidence, because behind her stupid coquetry lies only emptiness and ignorance. She declares with a smug smile that he still prefers her, and she was wrong to worry about his taste. With a stupid giggle, she revels in her imaginary victory, not noticing the icy contempt in his eyes. She humiliates Sophia with poisonous malice, not understanding how one can love such a boring and pathetic sister. The impostor, with a venomous grin, suggests that he was with Sophia only to attract her attention. She brazenly declares herself his princess, but Prince Leo's eyes fill with icy fury and disgust. An invisible force throws her away, and her smug speech is interrupted by a pathetic and frightened squeal. Alice is shocked and furious, unable to believe that her spell didn't work and her perfect plan is ruined. With contempt in his voice, he delivers his verdict to her. She will never surpass Sophia in anything. Turning away from her, he makes a final threat, promising to destroy her if she appears before him again. His words penetrate her mind like poison, and she cannot come to terms with the thought of her defeat. The realization of her own insignificance drives her to madness, and she breaks into hysterical screams. The guards burst in and freeze in shock, seeing the half-naked saint in a fit of uncontrollable rage. Having lost the last of her sanity, she vows to kill anyone who stands in her way, finally revealing her monstrous nature. Irritated by the noise, the king looks at his sobbing puppet with cold indifference. In hysterics, she clings to the king, demanding that he force the selfish Leo to marry her, because she is a princess. Through her sobs, she babbles that she does not understand why he so stubbornly rejects her. His destiny. The archbishop looks on with hypocritical sympathy at her pitiful performance, full of tears and despair. The king, with false tenderness, reassures her, advising her to concentrate for now on her role as a saint. But as soon as the priest agrees, her meekness turns to rage, and she clings to him with a death grip. The impostor's face is distorted with anger, and she hatefully demands an answer as to when she will become a princess. Her naked thirst for power amuses the king, and he admits with a grin that he is impressed by her ambition. With a devilish grin, he promises her a lavish wedding in 2 weeks, indulging her vanity. Having given the order for immediate preparation, he watches as his puppet childishly rejoices at his imaginary victory. The archbishop is horrified by the king's recklessness, but he only waves it off, reminding him of his unlimited power. Alice, with a smug smile, revels in her power, because now everyone obeys her unquestioningly. In her dreams, she already sees herself as a winner, standing on the bones of her defeated and humiliated sister. The day before the wedding, the impostor, blinded by her triumph, is already anticipating her happy future. She plans the wedding details with gusto, planning to tease her sister by showing her the sketches. In her sick imagination, Sophia must be crushed by the irrefutable proof of her defeat. Approaching the prince's chambers, she is surprised to see at the door the one she least expected to meet. Ryan, the king's loyal servant and Leo's jailer, stands in her way, and she tries to understand his motives. She decides that he is on her side, because it was he who helped the king separate her sister from the prince. She addresses him with false politeness, unaware that this man is the key to her downfall. Reveling in her supposed triumph, Alice tells Ryan of her goal, but his calmness alarms her. He explains his visit with a deceptively polite smile, subtly hinting at the prince's silent resistance. The impostor, with a mad laugh, calls Leo a fool for not obeying her will and the will of the king. Suddenly, the mask falls, and Ryan's icy gaze silences her, sensing the hidden threat. His sudden change frightens her, and she babbles pathetic excuses to try to hide her fear. For a moment, he appears before her as an ominous shadow, and her heart freezes with primal horror. Trying to regain her composure, she arrogantly declares that any man would be happy with her. Just as quickly, he becomes kind again, leaving her alone with her illusions and his secrets. She remains completely bewildered, alarmed by this strange man, whose motives are incomprehensible to her. On the wedding day, the deceived people greet their saint with delight, unaware of the coming storm. In the wedding carriage, Alice revels in the adoration of the crowd as they greet their false saint. A fake groom stands next to her, because the real prince still rejects her, ignoring even her choice of dress. Blinded by vanity, she sees in this farce proof of her long-awaited transformation into a princess. The hypocritical blessings of the king and the church convince her that she has become the happiest in the world. But behind the angelic smile lies a devilish grin, anticipating unlimited power and permissiveness. Sophia's sudden appearance takes her by surprise, but she quickly puts on the mask of a surprised sister. She approaches the heroine with venomous kindness, expecting to see her broken and crushed by grief. Like a snake, she hisses in her face, calling her a coward who dared to appear at her own shame. Even their mother is horrified by her cruelty, but Sophia only smiles mysteriously and calmly. With disarming grace, the heroine congratulates her sister on her wedding, admiring her outfit and its complete failure. Alice boasts about her tasteless dress with a smug grin, trying to humiliate her sister. But Sophia strikes back, subtly hinting that this outfit is completely not to Prince Leo's taste. She points out with venomous tenderness the main mistake. The prince didn't even participate in choosing the dress. Having lost her composure, the impostor panics and urges the archbishop to begin the ceremony in order to hide her shame. The priest, trying to save the situation, begs his saint to perform a miracle and calm the raging passions. With theatrical delight, Alice addresses the crowd, promising to make everyone happy with her divine gift. She is preparing to repeat her cheap trick of the gold appearing, hoping to dazzle everyone with her miracle. To the rapturous sighs of the crowd, she triumphantly reveals a chest filled to the brim with false wealth. The duped guests are shocked by such a quantity of gold, mistaking the clever trick for divine providence. With a victorious grin, Alice challenges her sister, declaring that her strength and charisma are inaccessible to her. With a devilish grin, Alice suggests that her sister crawl for the fake gold, reveling in her humiliation. Sophia praises her sister's nobility with venomous sarcasm, but declares that she cannot repeat her trick. In a word, she ruins the entire performance by declaring the coins to be counterfeit. The chest containing the fake miracle bursts into flames. Amidst the general chaos, Sophia stands unwavering, like a true queen, reveling in her unconditional victory.